What's going on, everybody? This is Tim Burger, Dual Throw Outdoors. Coming to you today with a opinion piece here on archery hunting. I love archery hunting. Archery hunting is probably my favorite activity, even over my beloved smallmouth bass fishing. I love it, but it's also an issue that causes a lot of division between hunters. So what I'm here to talk about today is just why you should shoot what you shoot. And I'm not talking about your kill criteria. I'm talking about your weapon of choice with archery. You know, the three main categories of archery right now are obviously the compound bow, modern archery, the crossbow, which, you know, that's probably the most debated one of all three, and then traditional, which is recurve longbow. And I'm going to talk about which of these is right for you. All three are legal methods of hunting in Pennsylvania and many other states during archery seasons. And there are reasons why you would or would not want to hunt with each weapon. So let's talk about, let's start with the pros first and then the cons. So here's why you'd want to hunt with traditional archery. Traditional archery is, of all three, by far the biggest challenge. You need to put in a lot of time practicing to be proficient with it. So if you're a person who's looking for the ultimate challenge and kind of wants to, you know, most closely reenact Fred Bear that you can, traditional archery is probably for you. Person who's okay with limiting themselves to close shot, like super close shots, 20 or less, traditional is for you. There is that cool. I mean, I have not got into it yet, and once we get to cons, I'm going to tell you why. But you know, it's there's definitely a sense of accomplishment killing you with a traditional bow. I tip my cap, excuse me, to anyone who can do it, because it is not easy, and I even know that as someone who's never done it. Next is my ballpark here, and that's compound bows. Why would you want to hunt with a compound bow? What is the reason you should hunt with a compound bow if that's what you choose? Well, for me, it's because, you know, I'm not so strapped with time that I need limited practice, but I am strapped enough with time where I can't put in the time it takes to use traditional archery. I just can't. I don't want to give up my tournament fishing. I don't want to give up time with my family, and I don't want to give up some other stuff I do. But I still have time to be proficient with compound. I love the feeling of drawing on game. That is a challenge. That is something that you can't do with the crossbow, which I'll get to here in a minute. But it does take some proficiency with that practice. So it is not as hard as traditional archery, but it's harder than crossbow. So if you want that nice balance of a little bit of a challenge, enjoy drawing back on game, and also still have time to practice, compound bow is for you. Now, pros to crossbow. Before I get to that, one thing I forgot to mention with compound is, you know, your effective range is for sure 30 yards, and for me, 40 yards. Now, some guys will go out to 50, 60. In my opinion, I don't think past 50 is really ethical with archery equipment, but 50 is if you can shoot proficient 50, you got some range. I really don't think you should be going farther past that with a compound. That's my opinion. But, you know, you pick up some range, you know, for sure over traditional archery. Now, some pros for crossbow, why you would want to shoot a crossbow. Here's what we got here. So if you're a person who's extremely busy, whether it's working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, whether it's a lot of after-school activities with your children and your family, whether it's you're more into fishing than I am and you're really doing that, you know, that crossbow is probably for you, because all you have to do for your time is be familiar with your weapon and basically sight in a few weeks before season. And you practice once a week, month before season, that's plenty sufficient. You're good to go. And then also, you got a little bit more of a range. Your effective range is at minimum 40. If you are shooting modern archery equipment. I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, there's anything wrong with someone who says they're going to set themselves at 30, but modern crossbows can easily shoot 40. That's really no issue, as long as the deer's not on high alert. But crossbow, you can realistically shoot 50, 60 yards. Now, with crossbow, I'd say over 60, you're really, you know, pushing it. I have heard of deer killed at 70, but, it takes one little movement of the deer being on alert and probably not making a good shot. But you have the longest range for sure of any of these three archery methods. Now, some cons with crossbow is a little more, even with the newer, smaller ones, is they're a little more cumbersome in the tree and a little heavier than the other two forms. A little heavier to carry through, especially if you're in public land and carrying back. That's something you have to think about. Another con is just, and before I say this, I did my first 2 archery deer were with a crossbow. And you still got excited seeing the deer come in, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not quite the same as the excitement of drawing back on game. I mean, that drawing back on game is so you lose that. You lose that compared to a compound or traditional. If you don't care about that, that's perfectly fine. Like I said, all these 3 of these are legal. I have nothing against any of the 3, but you do lose that little bit of thrill there. But a little cumbersome, a little heavier, but other than that, I mean, it's probably the most effective killing mechanism of these 3. Now, cons for the compound. Cons for the compound would be, you don't quite have the effective range as you do with a crossbow, and you still have to draw on game. So if you want to be a little less challenged, that's a situation for you. And you still do have to put in time practicing, compared to, my compound, I'm shooting from June on, I'm shooting 1 to 3 times a week, shooting for 2 or 3 times a week. And during season, like, here in Pennsylvania, we can't on Sundays, I usually still try to get a session in there once a week. Or if there's an evening I can't hunt, but I have a few free minutes, I'm putting some arrows in. I'm staying sharp throughout the year because that muscle memory is super important. So if you can't even commit that time, that's a con for you with the compound. One thing I will give it over the crossbow is you can shoot a little. If you have something coming behind you, you don't have to worry as much about your limbs hitting the tree like you do with a crossbow, even though, like I said, crossbows remain smaller now than they were when I shot it back in 2010. I've been shooting compound since 2011, so I've been doing it a while. Now, some cons with why you wouldn't want to shoot traditional, and these are 2 big ones. Your range is so limited. How much would it suck to be hunting a target buck and he comes in at 25 yards, you're sitting there with a traditional bow, you can't shoot it. That's the reason I will go to it. Like I said, hats off to those who do. It is very commendable, but man, I would never want that to happen to me, ever. And then the big one is time. Like, with a recurve, you need to be shooting all year long, at least once a week, all year long. 3 to 5 times a week for sure during season. Most traditional guys are shooting daily. I just don't have the time or desire to shoot that much. Like, I love shooting my compound, but like I said, I like to fish. I have stuff to do with my family. I have other things I like to do. Like, I don't have the desire to shoot that frequently. I don't mind having an off season in the spring where I'm not shooting much. That's pretty much why I don't use traditional. But the fact of the matter is, of these 3 methods, traditional is the hardest, followed by the compound, and followed by the crossbow being the easiest. Now, like I said, it's the 3rd time I've said this in this video, I believe. All 3 are legal methods of hunting in most states. Whatever you choose to use, I wish you the best of luck, for sure. But just know there are some pros and cons for why you may want to shoot one or over the other. And for me, with balance of a little bit of challenge and my time available, that's why I choose the compound. And my personal view on it is, as long as I can pull 60 pounds or more, I'll shoot the compound. Under 60, I don't want to be that limited with broadhead selection and just getting older. By that point, I'll make the switch to a crossbow at that point. But I'm still shooting 70 pounds with ease, so I am not there yet. That's me. That's why I choose to shoot a compound bow. And those are the reasons why you would or wouldn't want to shoot the compound, the crossbow, or the traditional archery choices. Drop a comment, tell me what you shoot, and tell me why. And thanks for watching. Thank you for watching this Dual Throw Outdoors video. If you like this video, be sure to leave it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Also, Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more Dual Threat Outdoors content.